This book by Douglas Valentine is now unavailable, and I can understand why. They don't want you to know that we set up concentration camps, torture camps in South Vietnam, and tens of thousands of South Vietnamese citizens. By the way, their symbol was the flying serpent dragon, the great phoenix bird. That was our program, run by the Central Intelligence Agency. And it was an assassination program in which all that was necessary is for the people to turn in those that were suspected of not being loyal to the American side. You know what you got if you turned in your neighbor? $6. $6 reward for turning in your neighbor. They have a program now in America under the Homeland Security Act, and it's called TIPS. They want you to turn in your neighbors to the government. The Phoenix program. By the way, the My Lai massacre was part of this Phoenix program. You thought it was just an isolated incident? No. Here's an article from an American newspaper called The Misery of My Lai. Look at those dead bodies, my friends. And Americans did that. You say Americans would never run concentration camps? No, not Christian Americans. Not thoughtful, loving Americans. I know that. And I know that America is probably the most generous, compassionate nation in the world. But my friends, when the spirit of Satan enters a man, he will do evil. Believe me. He will do brutal, uncompassionate, inhumane things. This is the story of whatever race, whatever creed other than Christianity, whatever ethnic group. This is across the board. And this spirit of evil is going to come again. And it will happen here in America. Now here is an American who brought some people down to Guyana in South America. And here's the end result. This picture is sort of hard to see, my friends, but these are bodies of over 900 people in Guyana. They went down there to live in what was nothing more than a concentration camp. Pastor Jim Jones of the People's Temple. Did you know that I have documented evidence that this was nothing more than a CIA experimentation site? Central Intelligence Agency of the United States set this camp up. This was not a bunch of cultists that went down there to worship their God-man, Pastor Jim Jones. No, my friends. And guess what? The coroner of the nation of Guyana, in a report that has not been in American newspapers, stated that over 90% of the people did not commit suicide, but were murdered. Murdered. And this is just the truth about Guyana. Some years ago, somebody sent me this article. It's from a tabloid, by the way. And I don't put much stock in tabloids. It says, Feds are set to toss millions of Americans into concentration camps. Anyone, it says, that ticks off the federal government could be a victim of these camps. So here we have this huge article. Must have frightened a lot of people who read the tabloid. Normally, as I said, I don't give tabloids any credence at all. But I'm going to give you documentation today that this might just be the real thing. We're going to look at actual facts, not just tabloid, but real stories, real accounts, real evidence today. You know, some people say, well, we might need camps because of so many immigrants coming to the United States that are illegal. We need places to put them. Friends, listen to me. They are trying to give amnesty to all of the aliens. George W. Bush actually introduced legislation in Congress, and the Congress, under Senate Majority Leader Tom Daschle, wants more immigrants into the United States. They're not trying to stop these immigrants. Don't let them lie to you and say, oh yeah, we're going to really start monitoring and controlling the immigrants, and if there are too many of them, we're going to put them in the camps. Baloney. Here's an article that came out of the Orange County, California Register daily newspaper. U.S. developing a plan to contain an influx of refugees from Mexico. Baloney. But what the real news is it talks about detention camps. Dozens of detention camps are being built and billions of dollars are being spent. Detention camps. It's not for refugees. They're not trying to put refugees. They don't have enough border patrol to control our borders now. Then an article, I have it in front of me, from the San Diego Union Tribune newspaper. It says U.S. military installations will be used as detention centers, and federal law enforcement agents from around the country could be used if these kind of camps are set up. Then my good friend who publishes the Free American put out this article, Government Admits Concentration Camp Program. Quotes Congressman Henry Gonzalez, Democrat from Texas. He says, the truth is, yes, the plans are here, where you could, in the name of stopping terrorism, evoke the military and arrest Americans and put them in detention camps. That's Congressman Henry D. Gonzalez from San Antonio, Texas. Here's somebody that sent me an article. It says President Bush in 1989 authorized the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, to build 43 primary camps having a capacity of 35,000 to 45,000 prisoners each. Then, just as I was going to press for this video in August of 2002, I read a newspaper report that 200 prison camps could be built in the United States and elsewhere in the world for Al-Qaeda, Arab terrorists. We go all the way back, my friends. Here's an article talking about the history of concentration camps. Did you know that back in August 3, 1948, J. Edgar Hoover and the Attorney General of that time, a J. Howard McGrath, set up a plan whereby President Truman could suspend constitutional liberties during a national emergency? It says here the plan was codenamed Security Portfolio. Well, the New Age has a plan. Here from the book Dawning of the New Age New World Order, my good friend Dennis Cudahy quotes Lucifer Trust, basically, President Mary Bailey. She wrote a letter in 1970. She says, there is the emergence of a new world order and a divine plan at work. And she said, this plan will take place in the next quarter of a century. Well, a lot of people are worried about an organization named FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. A lot of people say, but FEMA, they're there just for tornadoes and hurricanes to help us. Surely, Tex Mars, you must be mistaken. My friends, I'm not the only one that's mistaken. If I were mistaken, here's an article in Media Bypass magazine, and it says that FEMA is a blueprint for tyranny. This goes all the way back to the Nixon administration, because Dick Nixon set up FEMA, and we know what a great president he was. And guess what? When Bill Clinton was president, when he was in office, he announced that the United States Army Reserve and all of the reserves in the United States would be reorganized to conform to the configuration of FEMA. FEMA is going to control our National Guard and all of our reserve military forces within the United States. And they've set up 10 regions, and I believe there will be concentration camps in all of those. Now, a lot of people say, but Tex, you just don't understand. It's the victims of hurricanes and tornadoes and floods that FEMA is concerned about. Yeah, well, look at this lawsuit almost a decade ago. Here's the news item that says, victims of Hurricane Iniki in Hawaii and the 92 riots in Los Angeles have settled a lawsuit accusing the Federal Emergency Management Agency of providing inadequate disaster services. After nearly 18 months of negotiations, FEMA agreed to work more closely with local authorities, improve outreach, better train its workers, and blah, blah, blah. It goes on to say, in other words, FEMA wasn't even planning on taking care of these things, but people began to sue them. They said, okay, we'll do a little bit. My friends, about 3% of FEMA's work has to do with disaster preparedness. The rest, I believe, has to do with the concentration camp program and the continuity of program situation. Now you say, Tex, this all sounds too unbelievable. Way back in the Spotlight newspaper, back in 1984, was this incredible report that President Reagan ordered concentration camps. Now this had to do with something codenamed Rex 84. Did you know that Rex is the 10th degree of the Illuminati that was set up in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt over in Europe? Yes, the Order of the Illuminati. Rex, when you graduated to the Rex, which was the highest degree of initiation, you became your own God on earth. That's what they believe. If you could be initiated